Easter Sunday, March 23rd, 1913. If you could step into a time machine, if you could peel back the layers of history and stand on the corner of 16th and Farnham in downtown Omaha at noon on that day, you would think you had arrived in paradise. It is the perfect American day. The winter of 1912 had been brutal. It was long, gray, and bitter. The snow had piled high against the brick tenements, trapping the heat and the smoke of the coal furnaces. But today is a miracle. The temperature has soared. It is a balmy, impossible 70 degrees. The air is warm against your skin. The sky is a brilliant, piercing blue. Because it is Easter, the city is dressed in its Sunday best. Close your eyes and listen to the sound of 1913. You hear the rhythmic clatter of the electric streetcars grinding against the rails. The laughter of children, finally released from the somber season of Lent, and the pealing of church bells echoing from the Cathedral of St. Cecilia, bouncing off the limestone facades of the banks and the hotels. Omaha is booming. They call it the gateway to the West. It is a fortress of brick, steel, and iron. It is a city that feels permanent, invincible. It is the fourth largest railroad hub in the nation, a place where cattle from the plains are turned into beef for the world, and where the fortunes of the new American century are being built. Families are walking in the parks, their shoes crunching on the gravel paths. The women are wearing wide-brimmed hats decorated with silk flowers, shielding their eyes from the unseasonably hot sun. The men have shed their heavy winter coats, walking in shirt sleeves, smoking cigars, discussing the news. The pews at Sacred Heart are full. The smell of incense and lilies hangs in the air. Downtown, 800 people are lining up at the box office of the Diamond Theater. They are buying tickets for the evening show, eager to see the latest lantern slides and vaudeville acts. They are laughing, flirting. At the Idlewild Club, the social hub of the African-American community on North 24th Street, the staff is preparing for a massive night of celebration. Tables are being set, the jazz band is tuning up. It is going to be a night of joy. There is a sense of safety here, a sense of order. But look closer at this picture. Look at what is missing. There is no radar spinning on a tower nearby. There are no sirens mounted on the telephone poles. There are no radios in these homes to broadcast a warning. The people of Omaha are enjoying the sun, blissfully unaware that they are standing in the crosshairs of a loaded weapon. Because nature does not care about your calendar. Nature does not care that it is Easter. Nature does not care that you are wearing your Sunday best. While the city celebrates, 400 miles to the west, something dark is climbing over the Rocky Mountains. A collision is coming, and by the time the sun sets on this perfect day, this city will be burning. It will be buried, and parts of it will be erased from the map entirely. This is the story of the day the sky fell. To understand why this happened, to understand the sheer mechanical violence that is about to be unleashed on these innocent people, we have to look at the map. We have to look at the sky, not as a canvas, but as a battlefield of physics. In 1913, meteorology was still in the dark ages. We didn't have the word supercell. We didn't have hook echo. We didn't have satellites looking down from space to tell us when to run. Forecasting was a guessing game. It was a man standing on a roof, wetting his finger to test the wind. But on this specific Sunday, the ingredients for the perfect disaster were mixing in a cauldron over the Great Plains, high above the celebrating city. A massive low-pressure system is sliding down from the Rockies. Imagine a mountain of air. It is dry, it is cold, and it is heavy. It scrapes across the granite peaks of Colorado and spills out onto the flatlands of Nebraska. At the exact same time, a surge of warm, moist air is racing up from the Gulf of Mexico. It is carrying the heat, that beautiful, unseasonal 70-degree heat that everyone in Omaha is enjoying right now. Usually, these two air masses mix gradually. They dance, they rain, they create a thunderstorm, and then they dissipate. But on March 23rd, they didn't mix. They crashed. It is called a dry line, a boundary as sharp as a knife edge. On one side, the desert air, parched and desperate. On the other, the jungle air, thick and volatile. And right in the middle, where the friction is greatest, is the instability. The atmosphere over Nebraska is becoming a powder keg, and the heat, that 70-degree heat, is the match. By 2:00 p.m., the barometer begins to fall. It doesn't drop slowly, it plummets. If you have ever been near a major storm, you know the feeling. The pressure change that you feel in your teeth, in your inner ear. It's a physical weight pressing down on your chest. In the parlance of the time, the Weather Bureau simply predicted unsettled conditions. Unsettled. That was the word they used in the morning paper. It is a tragic understatement. It is like standing on a train track, seeing the headlight of a locomotive, and calling it a traffic disturbance. Before the clouds even form, the trap is set. The energy potential in the atmosphere is off the charts. It is waiting for a trigger. And as the afternoon wears on, as the families finish their Easter dinners and the children play in the yards, that trigger is pulled. Let's go back to the street level. It is now 4:30 p.m. The perfection of the day is starting to curdle. People are starting to look up. The brilliant blue sky has been replaced by a milky white haze. The sun is now a pale, watery disk, struggling to shine through the moisture. The wind is picking up, but it's not a cooling breeze. It's a hot gust. It whips the hats off of men. It sends newspapers tumbling down the street. Survivors would later describe the air as feeling greasy, like you could reach out and smear the humidity on a window pane. It sticks to your skin. It makes your clothes cling to your back. Listen to how one resident described the shift in a letter written days later. It became deathly still. The birds, the robins, and the sparrows that had been singing all morning, they just stopped. Even the street dogs, who usually barked at the carriages, they vanished under porches. The air felt heavy, like a wet wool blanket wrapped around your face. You couldn't take a deep breath. This is the moment of maximum danger. Meteorologists call it breaking the cap, the energy that has been building up all day. Boiling under that layer of cold air is punching through. Clouds are beginning to stack up in the southwest. These aren't normal rain clouds. These are towering giants. Cumulonimbus towers reaching 50,000 feet into the stratosphere. Anvils of ice and wind shearing off at the top. And they are turning a color that no cloud should ever be. Not gray, not black, green, a sickly, bruised, greenish yellow. It looks like the sky is infected. Residents in the suburbs stop what they are doing. They come out onto their porches. They point. Look at that, they say. Look at the color. They don't know what it means. They think it might be hail. They worry about their gardens. They worry about the windows. They do not worry about their lives. Because in 1913, the idea that a tornado could hit a major city was considered impossible. There was a prevailing theory, of foolish arrogance, that the heat from the city buildings and the hills around the river would protect them. They thought the heat island would push the storms around the city. They were wrong. Physics does not care about your theories. It is 5:30 p.m. The sun is low. The shadows are stretching out, long and distorted. Southwest of the city, near a small town called Ralston, the clouds begin to rotate. This is the birth of the monster. At first, it looks innocent. Just a finger. A thin, rope-like funnel dropping from the wall cloud. It dances. It touches the ground, kicks up some dust, and lifts again. If you saw it, you might be mesmerized. It looks like a snake, charming the horizon. But then, the rope thickens. It widens. It turns black as it begins to chew up the earth. It touches down permanently just outside Ralston. The time for unsettled weather is over. The time for survival has begun. Ralston is a small community, a suburb. It is the first casualty in the war. The tornado is not moving at the speed of a normal storm. It is racing. Some estimates say it is moving across the ground at 60 miles per hour. That is a mile a minute. Think about that. A mile every 60 seconds. There is no time to run. There is no time to pack a bag. There is barely time to shout. In Ralston, 7 people are killed instantly. Homes are not just damaged. They are scrubbed from the foundation. The funnel is expanding, growing from a narrow tube into a wedge, a quarter-mile wide grinder of debris. It inhales barns. It shatters trees. It turns wooden planks into missiles that can pierce brick walls. It lifts cows into the air and throws them fields away. And it is heading northeast, directly toward the heart of Omaha. Now, you have to understand the communication gap of 1913. This is crucial. Today, if a tornado hits a suburb, every phone in the city screams, social media lights up, sirens wail. You know instantly. In 1913, news travels at the speed of the telegraph operator. People in downtown Omaha, just 5 miles away, have no idea Ralston has just been destroyed. They are eating Easter dinner. They are washing dishes. They are putting children to bed. They are walking to the theater, excited for the show. There is a myth, a legend that has persisted for 100 years, that a telephone operator in Ralston saw the funnel and stayed at her post, calling down the line to warn Omaha. It's coming! It's coming! It is a heroic image. It makes for a great movie scene. But the truth is far more terrifying. The wires were cut instantly. The storm moved faster than the warning. The telephone lines snapped like thread. The silence from the south wasn't interpreted as danger. It was just silence. The only warning the people of Omaha are going to get is the sound. 5:55 p.m. The sun has been blotted out. It is technically evening, but it looks like midnight. The city lights flickered on early. The gas lamps are burning, casting a flickering yellow glow on the streets. At the Idlewild Club, the music is playing, a ragtime piano, laughter, the clinking of glasses. At the Diamond Theater, the projector is whirring. The beam of light cuts through the smoky air of the auditorium. And then, a sound begins to rise over the noise of the city. Survivors didn't say it sounded like wind. Wind whistles. Wind howls. This was a rumble, a vibration in the chest, a frequency so low you felt it in your bones before you heard it with your ears. One survivor said, "It sounded like a freight train was driving down the street, but not just one train, 1,000 trains, and they were all derailing at once. People stop on the sidewalks. They look at each other. Is that the Union Pacific? They ask. Is that a train coming in on the overhead track? But the schedule is wrong. There is no train due. The noise gets louder, deeper. It becomes a roar that drowns out the streetcars. It drowns out the church bells. And then, the pressure drops. Ears pop. Windows in the skyscrapers rattle in their frames. The air is suddenly sucked out of the room, pulled toward the vacuum approaching from the southwest. On the horizon, through the gloom, they see it. It is no longer a funnel. It is a wall, a solid, massive, swirling wall of black debris. It is illuminated not by the sun, but by the flashes of blue lightning from snapping power lines inside the funnel. It is tearing through the landscape, devouring everything in its path. And it has just crossed the city limits. The lights in the Diamond Theater flicker. The music at the Idlewild stops. A man on the street pulls out his pocket watch. He looks at it. It is 6:02 p.m. And then the lights go out. 6:02 p.m. Darkness, not the darkness of night, the darkness of a tomb. The streetlights are dead. The electric trams have sparked and died. The only light comes from the monster itself. Inside the funnel, millions of volts of electricity are arcing between the debris. Blue and green flashes illuminate the inside of the vortex like a strobe light in a nightmare. And then, contact. The tornado slams into the residential district on the southwest edge of the city. It does not knock. It does not ask for permission. It erases. Survivors describe the sound changing at the moment of impact. It stopped sounding like a train and started sounding like a scream, a high-pitched, metallic shriek. That is the sound of millions of nails being pulled out of wood at the exact same instant. If you are in a house in its path, this is what happens. First, the air pressure drops so violently that your ears pop painfully. The air inside your house suddenly wants to be outside. It pushes against the walls. It pushes against the windows. The glass explodes. Not in, but out. Shards of glass are fired into the street like buckshot. Then, the roof. The aerodynamic lift generated by wind speeds of 200, maybe 300 miles per hour. It turns your roof into a wing. It lifts. It hovers for a fraction of a second. And then it is ripped away. With the roof gone, the walls lose their stability. They collapse. It happens in seconds. One moment, you are sitting at your dinner table. The next, you are looking up at the swirling maw of hell. And then the bricks come down. Families are diving into cellars. They are huddling under heavy oak tables. Mothers are throwing their bodies over their children. But in 1913, many houses didn't have basements. They had crawl spaces, or they were just built on slabs. There is nowhere to hide. The storm is cutting a diagonal scar through the city. It is a quarter-mile wide. It is moving northeast. It tears through the poorer neighborhoods first. Wood frame houses are turned into kindling. Then it climbs the hill. It creates a blender of debris. You have to understand, a tornado isn't just wind. It is a solid object made of the things it has already destroyed. If you are hit by this storm, you are not just being hit by air. You are being hit by 2x4s, by bricks, by streetcar rails, by the furniture of your neighbors. It is a grinder, and it is hungry. 6:06 p.m. The beast reaches 24th and Lake. This is the heart of North Omaha, the center of the African American community, and standing on the corner is the Idlewild Club. It is a brick building, solid, a place of pride. Inside, the pool tables are busy, the bar is full, the music has stopped, replaced by the roar outside. People run to the windows. They see the debris cloud coming up the street. It is swallowing the world. Panic. Men and women rush for the back exit. They rush for the basement, but the storm is too fast. The tornado strikes the Idlewild Club with the force of a bomb. The brick walls, thick, heavy masonry, simply disintegrate. The upper floors collapse instantly onto the main hall. There is no time to scream. There is only the thunder of collapsing timber and the crushing weight of falling brick. In seconds, the social hub of the community is gone. 15 people are dead before the dust even settles. Many more are trapped in the darkness, pinned under beams, listening to the roar of the wind as it moves on to find new victims. But the storm does not pause to mourn. It accelerates. It moves toward the opulent mansions of the Gold Coast. This is the terrifying democracy of a tornado. It does not care about your race. It does not care about your bank account. It tears the roofs off the mansions just as easily as it tore the shacks. It snaps century-old oak trees like toothpicks. The grand homes of the wealthy, with their thick stone walls, are cracked open like eggs. The air is filled with the smell of pulverized drywall, the smell of pine sap from shattered trees, and the smell of natural gas. Pipes are snapping underground. The city is bleeding. 6:09 p.m. We are now in the terrifying heart of the disaster. The tornado is nearing the Diamond Theater. Remember, there are 800 people inside. They are sitting in the dark. They are watching a lantern slideshow. Outside, the wind is screaming. But inside, the noise is muffled by the thick walls. When the power died, the audience grew restless. They thought it was a technical glitch. Some of them laughed. Some of them booed. Then, the manager ran onto the stage. He shouted, "Keep your seats. There is no danger." He was trying to prevent a stampede. He was trying to save them, but he was wrong. A moment later, the rear wall of the theater begins to bulge. The bricks groan. The mortar cracks. And then, the roof comes down. It doesn't fall all at once. It peels back. And then huge sections of the ceiling plummet into the auditorium. Imagine the sound, the crash of timber, the scream of twisting metal, and the human cries of 800 people trapped in a pitch-black box. Dust billows out, choking them. People are scrambling over the seats. They are trampling each other in the dark, trying to find the exits. But the exits are blocked by debris. It is chaos. Absolute, primal chaos. But here is the miracle. Because of the angle of the collapse, because of the way the balcony held, hundreds of people are spared. They are huddled in the pockets of space left by the falling beams. They are terrified. They are choking, but they are alive. Outside, the storm is raging. It picks up a streetcar, a 10-ton vehicle, and tosses it 40 feet through the air. It looks like a toy being thrown by a tantruming child. 6:12 p.m. The storm is now in its final, most violent phase. It is heading toward the Sacred Heart Convent and the orphanage. Inside, the nuns have gathered the children. They can hear it coming. The roar is deafening. The windows are shaking so hard they are blurring. The sisters do not run. They do not panic. They gather the children in the hallways. They tell them to get on their knees. And they pray. Hail Mary, full of grace. The wind hits the building. The roof is torn off. The upper floor is sheared away. Bricks rain down around them. The wind howls through the corridors, threatening to suck the children out into the vortex. The sisters wrap their habits around the little ones. They use their bodies as shields against the flying glass. The Lord is with thee. The building groans. It shudders. It feels like the entire structure is going to collapse and bury them all. The wind screams like a banshee. It wants them, but the walls hold. Just barely. The tornado passes over them. It misses the main dormitory by yards. It tears through the grounds, destroying the outbuildings, ripping up the garden, and then it moves on. It creates a path of destruction through the telecommunications buildings, cutting the last lines to the outside world. Omaha is now deaf, dumb, and blind. 6:15 p.m. The tornado reaches Cutler's Park. It has been on the ground for 15 minutes. 15 minutes. That's less time than it takes to watch a sitcom. Less time than it takes to cook a pot of rice. In those 15 minutes, it has carved a path 5 miles long and a quarter-mile wide. It has destroyed 2,000 homes. It has killed over 100 people. It has caused millions of dollars in damage. And now, as quickly as it began, the energy dissipates. The funnel lifts. The rope thins out. The wall of black debris loses its cohesion. It dissolves back into the clouds. The monster creates one last gust, one last angry shove, and then it retreats into the sky. The rain starts to fall, cold, black rain, mixed with soot, mixed with dust. And then, silence. Not the quiet of a library. This is a heavy silence, a silence that hurts. There are no birds. There are no streetcars. There are no church bells. For a few seconds, there are no human voices, just the sound of settling dust, the drip, drip, drip of water on broken timber. The survivors, those who are still conscious, are lying in the rubble. They are stunned. Their brains cannot process what just happened. They are waiting for the world to make sense again. But the world they knew, the confident, booming, invincible Omaha, is gone. They are lying in a graveyard, and in the distance, the first flicker of orange light appears. Fire. The wind is gone, but the nightmare is just beginning. 6:30 p.m. Sunday. The wind has gone. The sky above Omaha is clearing. The monster has dissolved back into the atmosphere, leaving behind a silence so profound it feels heavy. But that silence is a lie. It lasts for maybe 10 minutes, just enough time for the survivors to push the bricks off their chests, just enough time to stand up, cough the plaster dust out of their lungs, and realize they are still alive. And then the smell hits them. It isn't the smell of rain. It is a sharp, rotten, sulfurous stench. Natural gas. The tornado had ripped the city's infrastructure out by the roots. Hundreds, perhaps thousands of gas lines have been severed. They are hissing into the rubble piles. They are filling the basements where families are hiding. They are pooling in the pockets of air trapped under the collapsed roofs of the Diamond Theater and the Idlewild Club. Omaha is now a bomb, and the city is full of coal stoves. It starts with a spark, maybe a lantern being lit by a frantic father trying to find his daughter. Maybe a live electrical wire dangling from a pole, dancing against a piece of tin. Maybe the embers of a kitchen stove that was crushed but not extinguished. Pop. A small explosion. Then another. Then a roar. The first fire breaks out near 24th and Lake. Then another in the debris of the Diamond Theater. Then another in the Gold Coast district. The survivors, who have just lived through the wrath of the wind, now face the wrath of the fire. Imagine the psychological horror of this moment. You are trapped. You are pinned under a beam. You can't move your legs. It is pitch black. And then you smell smoke. You hear the crackle of flames eating through dry wood. You feel the heat rising. You survive the tornado, only to realize you might burn to death in the ruins of your own home. Panic erupts. Those who can walk are running. But where do you run in a city that has been erased? The streets are gone. They are mountains of timber, glass, and wire. You have to climb. You have to crawl. And it is dark. The power plant was hit. The streetlights are dead. The only light comes from the fires themselves. They cast a hellish flickering orange glow over the devastation. The shadows dance on the broken walls. It looks, literally, like the opening gates of Hades. The fire department is helpless. The alarm lines are down. The roads are blocked by trees and overturned streetcars. The horses cannot pull the water wagons over the debris. The firefighters have to run on foot, carrying buckets, carrying axes. It is medieval. It is feudal. They watch as the fires merge, jumping from one pile of rubble to the next. The wind, the natural breeze following the storm, fans the flames. At the Idlewild Club, the tragedy deepens. The rescuers are frantically digging with their bare hands to reach the voices screaming from the basement. But the heat is intense. The smoke is blinding. They have to make a choice: dig and risk being burned alive, or retreat and leave the trap to die. In the darkness of that Sunday night, heroism battles with self-preservation. Let's slow down. I want you to inhabit this night. It is 10 p.m. The initial chaos has settled into a grim, rhythmic struggle. The fires are being contained, barely, by bucket brigades of civilians. Men in tuxedos from Easter dinner are standing shoulder to shoulder with laborers, passing water pails. The city is swarming with lanterns. From a distance, if you look down from a hill, it would look like a field of fireflies. Thousands of tiny lights bobbing and weaving through the black scar of the tornado path. These are the searchers. They are calling out names. Mary! John! Mother! The responses are weak. Moans, cries for water. The hospitals are overwhelmed. St. Joseph's, the Methodist hospital, they are turning into war zones. There are no ambulances. The injured are being carried on doors ripped from hinges. They are being wheeled in wheelbarrows. They are being carried in the back of grocery delivery trucks. The doctors are operating by candlelight. They are running out of ether. They are running out of bandages. They are tearing up bed sheets. And amidst this heroism, there is the shadow of humanity. Looters. It is an ugly truth of disaster. When the rules of society break down, the predators come out. Reports begin to circulate of men moving through the darker ruins. They aren't carrying stretchers. They are carrying empty sacks. They are pulling rings off the fingers of the dead. They are checking the pockets of the unconscious. The police are stretched to the breaking point. The National Guard hasn't arrived yet, so vigilante justice takes over. There are stories, unconfirmed but persistent, of looters being caught by angry fathers, of summary executions in the dark, a gunshot ringing out that has nothing to do with the storm. Omaha has become the Wild West again. Law and order has collapsed. The survivors huddle together in the parks. They wrap themselves in curtains, in rugs, in anything they can find. They stare at the sky. They are terrified that the storm will come back. Every gust of wind makes them flinch. They are exhausted. They are traumatized. They just want the sun to come up. They think, surely, the worst is over. Surely God has punished them enough for one day. But they are wrong, because the atmosphere is not done with Omaha. Remember that cold front? The massive low-pressure system pushing down from the Rockies? It hasn't stopped. In fact, it is accelerating. The temperature is dropping. At 5 p.m., it was 70 degrees. By midnight, it is 40. By 3 a.m., it is freezing. The rain that had been falling on the fires, it starts to change. Monday morning, March 24th. The sun rises, but you can barely see it. The sky is a heavy, oppressive gray. And then, the white flakes begin to fall. This is the cruelest twist in the story. This is the moment where history turns from a tragedy into a nightmare. Snow, not a dusting, not a flurry, a blizzard. The temperature crashes into the teens. The wind picks up again, howling from the north this time. Imagine the survivors. They are shivering in the parks. They are wet from the rain. Their homes are gone. Their coats are buried under tons of brick. And now, they are being hit by a winter storm. It feels personal. It feels malicious, like nature is trying to finish the job. The snow falls on the hot ruins. It hisses as it hits the smoldering fires. Within hours, the black scar of the tornado is covered in a pristine, white shroud. It looks beautiful. It looks peaceful. But it is deadly. Think about the people still trapped. There are still hundreds of people buried in the rubble. They survived the collapse. They survived the gas. They survived the fire. But now, they are freezing to death. The rubble piles, which provided some shelter from the wind, are now acting like iceboxes. The cold seeps into the cracks. Hypothermia sets in rapidly. A person trapped under a house can survive for days without water. They can survive with broken bones, but they cannot survive wet clothes in 20-degree weather. The rescuers are fighting a losing battle. Their hands are numb. The debris is slippery and ice-coated. The roads, already impassable, are now slick with slush. The search dogs lose the scent in the snow. The shouts for help become quieter. Then, they stop. The snow acts as a sound dampener. It muffles the city. By Monday afternoon, Omaha is a surreal landscape. You see a house cut in half by the tornado. The furniture still standing in the bedroom, covered in 6 inches of snow. You see a piano in the middle of the street, white with frost. You see the bodies of the dead, laid out on the sidewalks, covered with tarps, and then covered with snow. They look like mounds of earth. It is a scene of absolute desolation. The Easter Sunday tornado has become the Easter Monday blizzard. The city is paralyzed. The trains can't run. The telegraph lines, which were just being repaired, snap again under the weight of the ice. Omaha is cut off from the world once more. Tuesday, March 25th. The snow stops. The sky clears. And the United States Army arrives. They march into the city from Fort Omaha. Soldiers in greatcoats, bayonets fixed. They are not here to fight an enemy. They are here to fight chaos. Martial law is declared. The city is divided into zones. Sentries are posted on the corners. The order is given: shoot to kill. Anyone found looting, anyone found in the ruins without a pass, anyone disobeying an order. The mood shifts from panic to a grim military efficiency. The recovery effort begins in earnest, and it is a gruesome task. They are not looking for survivors anymore. They are recovering bodies. The soldiers work in teams. They lift the frozen beams. They shovel the snow off the bricks. They find mothers holding babies. They find entire families huddled together in corners. They find people who look like they were sleeping. The bodies are taken to makeshift morgues, garages, pool halls, the few theaters that are still standing. Rows and rows of them. Family members have to walk the lines. They have to lift the sheets. It is a parade of sorrow. The official death count begins to climb. 50, 75, 100, 140, and the injured, over 400. In 1913, medical care was not what it is today. A broken leg could mean a life of disability. An infection from a rusty nail could mean amputation or death. The injured list is full of people who will never truly recover. But amidst the death, there are stories of resilience that defy logic. There is the story of the baby found in a pile of mud, 3 blocks from its home, without a scratch. There is the story of the man who was in a barber chair, getting a shave when the shop blew away. He was found 2 streets over, still in the chair, wrapped in the barber's cape, bruised but alive. These stories become the folklore of the city. They are the glimmer of hope in the dark. Now, we have to ask the hard question. Why? Why was the destruction so absolute? In the weeks following the disaster, engineers and architects descended on Omaha. They looked at the wreckage. They took photos, and they found an uncomfortable truth. Omaha was a boom town. It was built fast, and in the rush to build, corners were cut. The mortar in the brickwork was often poor quality, too much sand, not enough lime. When the wind hit, the bricks didn't hold. They simply crumbled. The houses were balloon frame construction, quick to build, cheap, but structurally weak against lateral force. They weren't anchored to their foundations properly. The tornado didn't just blow them down, it slid them off their blocks. This disaster, along with others in the era, forced a reckoning. It changed the way we build. It changed the codes. It also changed the way we warn people. The Weather Bureau, which had been so hesitant to use the word tornado for fear of causing panic, realized that panic is better than death. The failure to warn Omaha became a case study. It drove the push for better telegraph networks, and eventually, radio warnings. But here's the strange part. You probably haven't heard this story before. If I say the San Francisco earthquake, you know exactly what I mean. If I say the Great Chicago Fire, you have an image in your head. But the Omaha tornado of 1913, it has largely faded from the national memory. Why? Because of timing. The same storm system that destroyed Omaha moved east. It caused catastrophic flooding in Ohio and Indiana. The Great Dayton Flood killed hundreds more and dominated the headlines for weeks. And then, a year later, the world went to war. World War I erased a lot of memories. The horror of the trenches overshadowed the horror of the tornado. The scar on Omaha healed. The buildings were rebuilt. The snow melted. The grass grew back. But for the generation that lived through it, the Easter Sunday tornado remained the defining moment of their lives. They measured time in before the storm and after the storm. Let's go back to that corner. 16th and Farnham, it is 1 year later. Easter, 1914. The debris is gone. New brick buildings are rising. The streetcars are running. The church bells are ringing. The city looks normal. But if you look closely, you can see the ghosts. You can see the empty chair at the dinner table. You can see the limp of the man walking to work. You can see the way people freeze, just for a second, when the sky turns a certain shade of green. Omaha survived. It didn't just survive, it thrived. It rebuilt stronger, harder. But it learned a lesson that day, a lesson that we often forget in our modern world of radar and steel. We like to think we have conquered nature. We like to think we are safe in our cities. But we are just guests here. We live at the mercy of the physics of the atmosphere. And on one sunny, perfect Easter Sunday in 1913, the sky decided to remind us of that fact. It sent the wind, then it sent the fire, then it sent the ice, and it proved, once and for all, that civilization is fragile. All it takes is 12 minutes. 12 minutes to erase a city, and 100 years to forget it ever happened.